Hello and welcome to Bourbon Rocks. Tonight we have a very special treat for you. This is what I believe to be an internet first. A flight of Pappy Van Winkle that includes the 25-year-old old Rip Van Winkle. I have seen a video on YouTube that does do a flight of all 5 of the Pappies, but does not include the 25. Because this bottle is very rare. There's only 710 of them in the entire world. Now I've reviewed each and every one of these already on Bourbon Rocks individually. And, I've ranked them in my mind the way I thought they were. And you can watch the videos, each one, and you can see. But this is the first time I'm going to have them all at the same time, and it's quite possible that my ranking in my mind may actually change when I actually do them head to head. One thing you're going to learn about tasting bourbon is there is no right or wrong. This does not mean that I'm right or that you're right or that I'm wrong or that you're wrong. Everyone's going to have their own opinion when they taste bourbon. Everyone's going to have a different nose, a different palate. We're all going to smell and taste different things. And as long as you're honest with yourself and you're not making it up, you're right, okay? And so we're all gonna like some things and not like other things, and things that I might like that you may not like as much, and I may not like things and you may like them a lot. But I think most people out there agree that Pappy Van Winkle is good. In fact, great. It's probably the most, I would say not even probably, it is just straight up the most sought after bourbon in the world. And I think most people are going to say it's one of the best bourbons in the world. Now the question comes down to, is it worth the price? And that's where you're really going to have your differences of opinion. Should you pay for Pappy? Should you not pay for Pappy? But if you could get Pappy at least at list price, I think everyone's going to tell you it's phenomenal. And I agree. Every single one of these expressions, if you watch my previous videos, they're all aces. They're all fantastic bourbons, but they differ. And you also have to understand that they do come out, each year, and there are going to be different, flavors and between the expressions between the years. Of course, the 25 has only come out one time, so you won't ever find this again, even if Pappy was to produce a 25, and it's possible they may have some barrels after the 23 that they're holding on, and they could put a 25 year out again, but it will never be from Stitzel-Weller. Okay, this is the original Stitzel-Weller juice in this bottle. Again, this is a very rare bottle, 710 in the whole world. I acquired it, fortunately, when a friend of mine won the lottery. These others I've had to acquire in different ways, but you're going to pay a lot of money on the internet. This bottle's worth about $60,000. I've had this since 2017, so 7 years, and I've drank about half of it. Actually, before I did my review, it was a little bit more than that. And these, I actually just opened these when I did the reviews of these on Bourbon Rocks. So what kind of fool would do a flight of Pappy Van Winkle? Because this stuff is expensive. Again, this is about $60,000 on the internet. This is about $7,000. This is about $5,000. This is about $3,000. So you got $75,000 worth of liquor if you buy this. And when you do pours, a 1 ounce pour, $200-$300, maybe $150, $200, $300, you won't ever find this. So what would you, if you had a restaurant that had it, I'm sure they would charge you $1,500, $2,000 for a pour of this stuff. So we're putting a lot of money in these glasses, and only a crazy person would do that. But on Bourbon Rocks, you're going to see it, okay? Now, oh, by the way, here's a little plug for Origin PC, my computer of choice. Just a little bit about me, which I haven't said in any of the other videos yet. I'm not a professional reviewer, okay? This is not a full-time job for me. I'm a surgeon. I still practice medicine, and I just do this for fun because I love bourbon, and I want to share my knowledge and experience with other people. At this point in time, I am not monetized, maybe sometime in the future, so I make nothing off of this. This is really just for you on the internet. So we're going to do it, okay? So normally I do all of my videos with one take. This is also being done with one take, so I might make a couple little spoken errors from time to time. Of course, I'll correct those, but this is not edited. And I'm doing one little cheat here. I'm going to wear my reading glasses, which you haven't seen in other videos because, you know, I'm a little bit older. I need reading glasses. Normally I don't use them because I'm just tasting bourbon. But I kept these little note cards because what I did do was just write down just a couple of notes that came from the original videos that I did of these. And then I'm going to see if I get the same thing. But at that time, basically the 25, of course, this thing's bottled at 100 proof. And, you know, and I thought basically we had a lot of cherry pie, blackberry jam, toast, cherry vanilla, sundae with like caramel sauce on it. And we got to that was on the nose. When we got to the finish, I got some more little peppery cinnamon, a little more spicy than you expect from a wheated bourbon. Some tobacco that came from that extra aging. And then interestingly enough, I got some floral notes, okay, like rose petal, which I really wasn't expecting that. Be fair, I'd actually done a review of this 7 years ago when I first got the bottle, but my palate wasn't as mature. My experience as a bourbon taster was not as mature. Since then, I've been to Kentucky multiple times on the Bourbon Trail. I've done classes and courses in bourbon tasting, and so, you know, I got a little bit more developed palate now. It's slightly sweet. You know, the oak is very, very strong, and this is 25 years, okay? High tannins and little peppermint candy maybe at the end. Long caramel finish. We move to the 23, comes down to about 95.6 proof. And again, a little sweet cherry, some cotton candy, a little sweeter vanilla pie crust. There was a lot of caramel and so forth. I'm sorry, excuse me, there was less caramel in this one. It was a little less sweet too. Some allspice, tobacco, cinnamon toast crunch, butterscotch. It's still, the oak came through very strong at the 23 years with some high tannins and then sort of a long caramel finish as well. So these were very similar. I thought a little more floral in the 25, a little less sweet, a little less caramel in the 23. When we got to the 20, now this is only bottled at 90.4 proof, and I really didn't, you know, expect it to be as amazingly awesome because it is low proof. But I thought the 20 was the best. I thought the 20 was better than the 23, which is a tad bit better than the 25. The 20 was absolutely phenomenal to me. It was Christmas in the glass. You know, there was some burnt sugar, creme brulee, lots of vanilla sugar cookie on the nose, and they got to the palate, and it was just Christmas with fruit cake with, you know, the dried fruits, plums, dates, cherries, apricots, and so forth, like with a little drizzly icing on it. Some Christmas spice, cinnamon, nutmeg, a little bit less tobacco and lots of dried cherries, and again a long finish which tied together all those Christmas fruits and spices and so forth. I really just thought this was fantastic, the best. Then I get to the 15, and the 15 was very interesting. I thought the 15 was the worst of the three, but again, they're all aces, they're all fantastic. But I thought this was not quite as good. Interesting, it was a little more grainy. There was, you know, it's kind of this fight between the corn and the wheat, like cornbread versus wheat bread, or maybe even corn muffin versus pancakes, if you will, a little kind of breakfasty almost. But I thought it was very earthy when you got to the palate, and that would kind of surprised me as well. It was kind of an herbal too, like almost like an Earl Grey tea with a bergamot and you know, some citrus and so forth in it. It was a little less sweet and less spicy. It was more herbal. The finish was medium. Still, you got that earthiness in the leather. So that was my original tastings. Now, what I'm going to do now is we're actually going to pour them and we're going to try them all together, and we're going to see if I feel the same way or do I feel something different. So, all right. I'm going to pour these, and you see, look what I got here. I got a nice little wooden rack that has my Glencairn glasses, and a couple of them are actually old Rip Van Winkle on them. And so I'm going to pour these. Again, we're crazy on Bourbon Rocks. We are drinking some of the best whiskey in the world, and we're doing this for you, and we're not afraid to pour. Although I do want these bottles to last a long time. Again, my 25 has lasted for 7 years so far. We'll set them to the side. can I do this so that you can still see everything? And the 20. I do have a fairly heavy hand. My pores are larger than most. That's probably more than an ounce. I probably should have gotten a jigger out, but you know what? Hey, it's Bourbon Rocks. This is for you. The 23. Looks like I'm getting a little bit heavier each time. And finally, the granddaddy Pappy of them all. Nice Glencairn crystal decanter that this came in with a stopper that always looks like a light bulb to me. I'm going to be a little bit lighter on this one because it is so expensive. Oh, what the hell. Just give us a nice pour. There we go. This needs to last. If I can get it to last 10 years, that'll be amazing. I'm not going to put it as close to the edge of my desk too, because I certainly do not want to knock it off. So I'll just set it on my nice, another little plug for the Virginia Cavaliers. That's where I went to school. For both college and medical school. All right, so here we go. Let's see. We're going to start obviously at the low end here. I did put a lot more of that 23 in there, didn't I? Tell you what, let me just put a tiny little bit more of the 15 in there so that we can make it a little even. There we go. Is that pretty close now? Yeah, it's pretty close now. Okay, now, again, I'm not gonna, this is not a blind tasting. The review I've seen on the internet that did have the 23, 20, 15, 12, and 10 was blind with two people. And we do have guests that will be coming on Bourbon Rocks as we go along further. You know, we're a new channel, just getting started here. But right now I'm doing all this stuff myself. And it's not blind. I know what's in these glasses, and I've tasted them before too, but I'm going to try not to be biased by my original because, you know, I mean, you want the 25 to be the best because, you know, it's so expensive, but that doesn't necessarily mean that it will be. It's expensive because it's rare and, you know, it's aged longer, but, you know, the 2 extra years in aging isn't what jacks this price up. The fact that it's extraordinarily rare is what jacks the price up. All right, so 15. Again, as far as color goes, they're all about the same. Surprisingly, the 20 is probably the lightest in color. Maybe that's not surprising given the fact that it is also the lowest proof. It's, you know, the age, the 23 is a little darker because it's got 3 more years in the barrel. But the 15 actually comes a little bit darker, even though it's 5 years younger than the 20. But, oh, I forgot to say, because the 15 comes at 107 proof. So it's like the 10, for example. And the 20 is like the 12 in terms of proof point. So you do get, you know, a higher proof here. This is 5 years older, but it's a lower proof. But anyway, the 20 is a bit lighter. So 50, and as far as body, you know, you got about a medium body on there. You got some nice legs and a little ring around the glass. A little bit thicker body on the 20. About the same amount of thickness on the 23. So a little fuller body on the 20 and the 23 than the 15. And the 25, again, very, very full body there. All right, now, here we go. Nose. So nose on the 15. Again, some of that earthiness is coming through. You know, I postulated, and I didn't really have an explanation for it, but I postulated that perhaps the wood in the barrel, before it was charred, you know, keep in mind that these cooperages that make these barrels, that wood sets out, you know, in the elements, you know, for a certain amount of time before they actually make the barrel out of it. And I'm sure that Buffalo Trace and the Van Winkle family have certain specifications. But I just postulated that maybe that wood was sitting out longer. Maybe it rained more on it. It had a little more of a kind of an earthy moldiness to it. And I still get that. On the 20, and that's much fruitier, much fruitier. No, that's not earthy. That's just super fruit there. Again, there's dried fruits. Remember, this is the one we said was Christmas in the glass. And you're pulling out that, imagine that plum pudding or fruit cake, you know, very, it's an American whiskey, but you get sort of the English type Christmas, you know, with the fruit cake and the plum pudding and stuff. Just got back from England, so a little bit of that's on my mind. I drank scotch over there, but scotch is not as good as bourbon. I'm sure I'm going to offend some people by saying that, but this is Bourbon Rocks. This is not Scotch Rocks. Although, over time, we do expect we might actually review some ryes and scotches and Irishes as well, but it's bourbon on Bourbon Rocks. The 23. That's not as fruity. It's much more balanced out between the fruit and the spice. But you do still have a lot of that. There's the caramel. There's still some cherry, and I think all the Pappies are cherry bombs. There's cherry in all of this stuff. But not as fruity as the 20. Much more kind of balanced out. The 25. Remember, this is the one that had some floral notes to it. Now, you also have to keep in mind, not only is this aged 2 years longer, but this is original Stitzel Weller juice. This was distilled in Shively, Kentucky, not in Frankfurt. So it's a different place. Again, lots of oak and caramel. You know, this is an aged whiskey, but there are those little floral notes. You know, almost like a rose petal, which I find that the earthiness in the 15 and the floralness in the 25 are not things you would expect. The oak, the caramel, the vanilla, the sweetness, the cherries and dried fruits, you know, that's kind of through them all. Much more in the 20, the 23, very little in the 15, and it's still present in the 25, but you start getting some of those interesting flavors too. I'm sorry, notes, excuse me, because we've only been nosing it. Now, we're going to taste. So now, here is our 15. This is going to be one of the longest videos. I'm sorry, I'm trying to keep the videos, you know, around 9 to 10 to 11 minutes because people do lose interest. But I think when we're doing a flight of Pappy Van Winkle, including the 25-year-old Van Winkle on Bourbon Rocks, I think maybe I can hold your attention a little bit longer. Now, I grew up on a farm, and this, you know, reminds me of, you know, the sort of the hay barns and so forth. You know, even though that's a scent more than a taste, you're going to pick up still some of those nose scents at the same time that you're tasting it. It is definitely kind of earthier, moldier. It's more savory, not as sweet. Interesting. I'll say maybe that this one does. Now, this is the highest proof. One thing I will say about all of the Pappies is that even though most of them are lower proof, even 107's not super high proof, they all tend to drink hotter than their proof points, except the 15. I think the 15 drinks right at its proof point, but it gives me kind of that moldy oak, you know, like I'm not barnyard, okay? I'm not like talking like some wine flavors and so forth, but I'm talking about like, you know, the kind of old, like old oak, moldy oak, like this. I do think maybe that this wood might have been exposed to a whole lot more rain before it was made into a barrel. But I mean, I don't want to say that that's a bad thing. You know, it's a different kind of taste. There is that sort of, again, that herbalness. Remember, I thought it was like Earl Grey tea. I'm still getting that, like a breakfast tea. I think this almost is like, this could be a breakfast bourbon. Whereas, you know, clearly these other ones are going to be dessert bourbons. This one you could almost, you know, not just use to drink in the morning, but, you know, sometimes you might have to. Because it gives me some of those savory notes, that Earl Grey tea with some herbal bergamot, citrusy spice and so forth in it. A little bit sweet at the end, okay? I was thinking this wasn't a very sweet bourbon, but at the finish, it's a short finish. Well, it's a medium finish. It's shorter than the rest. But it is a little bit of sweetness at the end. Now moving on to the 20. Remember, this isn't blind, and I've already tasted these before, and I don't want to be biased by my original tasting, but I loved the 20. I just absolutely loved the Christmassiness. It's going to be good. I know it's going to be good. Amazing. I mean, it's there, that fruit cake, you know, and that fruit cake is like something that you used to hate getting at Christmas time from, you know, neighbors and friends. But it's different when it's in a bourbon. Okay, that dried fruit sweetness, cherry is big. Dates and stuff are big in there. Not too much of the nut that you would get in fruitcake, but definitely the dried fruits and so forth. And the vanilla is strong. The caramel, the oak is. It's a different kind of oak. It's not the moldy oak from the 15. It's much more of a smooth oak. But the tannins do get you on that finish. It's a much longer finish. A lot of that oak tannins are coming in at the end, but so does that sweet. That cherry does not leave you. Those dried fruits are still there. Not as spicy. You get some of the Christmas spices. You know, there is a cinnamon and nutmeg to it. But it's it's a little more to the sweet side, a little less to the spicy side, but it's a wheated bourbon, so that doesn't surprise me. But it's just got that perfect balance, you know, between the fruit, sweet, and spice and oak. It just layers right on top. It's the perfect puzzle. All the pieces just fit together. So far, the 20 is better than the 15. And I didn't really expect anything different during this tasting. What I really thought might happen is I start tasting the older bourbons later, because I did them first and I went down. I'm wondering if I'm going back in the opposite direction, I'll start to appreciate the older ones a little bit more. So here we go. Here's the 23. 107 proof. This was only 90.4 proof. Let me check just to make sure I'm not leading you astray. And that's right. And then 95 point. Oh, I'm sorry. This is the 15. That's the 107. Then 90.4 on the 20, and then the 23, 95.6. Okay, so we're went down in proof, but up in age. Now we're going back up in proof and up in age. Ooh, that butterscotch hits me. I didn't get it in the first nosing. A lot of times when you nose and taste bourbons, you know, you got to go a couple times. The first time, especially when you get a high proof bourbon, when you get like a barrel proof bourbon, you're going to get a lot of alcohol initially. And And the same thing on the first chew, when you get that first taste. Since you got to, nose it for a while, come back for another one. Same thing, chew it, come back for another sip, because you are going to get more alcohol initially. But none of these bourbons are super high proof. But there's that butterscotch. Let's see what we got in the taste. Spicier, a bit less fruitier, a different kind of sweetness. This is more sort of fruit sweet. This is more candy sweet, like butterscotch chips in a cookie, or a little chocolate, maybe white chocolate even. White chocolate chip cookie. That's one of my favorites, especially if you got some macadamia nut. Don't want to imagine that I taste macadamia nut in here, but I do definitely get the white chocolate chip cookie. That's more sweetness from candy and less sweetness from fruit. There's a little bit more spice here too. Again, you got some allspice, cinnamon, baking spice. Long finish, the caramel, and then the tannins get there. It's very oaky, more so than the 20. You're pulling that extra 3 years. It does, but again, it's so well balanced with the candy, butterscotch, white chocolate chips, and the baking spice, allspice, cinnamon together. The cookie flavor. This is a dessert whiskey, and extraordinarily well balanced. So, last time I put the 20 over the 23. I don't know. They're different. More fruit, more sugary, more oak, more caramel, more spice. Might be a little bit balanced, but a lot of that Christmas fruit cakeness. And this is more like sugar cookie, white chocolate chip, butterscotch chip cookie. All right, now here we go. Again, don't want to be biased. This stuff is some of the rarest bourbon on earth, and you want it to be fantastically good. So you start to wonder now. You put 2 more years. Now, I believe wheated bourbons can handle their age much better than rye bourbons. I think you can take a wheated bourbon out into the 20s. And Pappy has done the most fantastic job of aging a wheated bourbon. We're also, later on, a little sneak peek, we're going to do a flight of the BTAC bourbons, Buffalo Trace Antique Collection. And I'm going to throw in for a 4th one, a Buffalo Trace product that if I was Harlan Wheatley, Master Distiller, or some of the executives at Sazerac, I would put as a 4th bourbon in the BTAC collection. I'm not going to tell you what it is. You got to watch that video. But I love the William LaRue Weller. I still think that it rivals anything that Pappy makes. But it's only 12 years. So Pappy really, corners the market on aging these wheated bourbons. Now, old Fitzgerald has got some older expressions of wheated bourbons as well, and they're very good. But Pappy's the king. So here we go. Here is 25-year-old Pappy Van Winkle. Again, that's probably several $1,000s in this glass. And oh, by the way, just let you know as you watch these, this is not designed to be a snobby channel. I mean, yes, I started out by trying to wow you guys with some of the best bourbons in the world, but it's not going to stay like this forever. I mean, I promise I'm going to get down to, I'm even going to, everyday bourbons and so forth. They're coming. It's just, hey, I'm new. I'm starting a new channel. I want to wow you and get some followers. So I'm going to hit you with some of the best stuff I got out there. But, it won't always be as elitist as this, but this is extraordinarily high priced bourbon here. Ooh. if bourbon was a commodity like gold, wow. Now this is 100 proof, so it's a step up in proof again from the 23. It's also a step up in age, 2 more years. And this is the original Stutzel Weller juice from Shively, Kentucky. The stuff that was in the old Van Winkles, in the old Wellers, in the old, very old Fitzgeralds, before the distillery was shut down. Man, the complexity. So, all right. Again, it's less sweet. That aging is taking some of that sweetness away. The 15 is completely different. This is earthy. 20, very sweet, very Christmassy. 23, a little more balanced out. The sweetness came more from candy than from fruit. Less fruity, more sugary. The vanillins started to rise. The more you got, older you got, the more you got out of the wood, the more caramels and more oak. So the traditional bourbon flavors got more and more intense. That cherry flavor, which is, to me, big in Pappy's, really popped in the 20. Started to fade a little bit. These are still cherry bombs. All of them are cherry bombs, okay? But there's so much more balance that comes with that aging. You get, the spice in here is your allspice, some cinnamon. There's definitely more vanillins, more caramels, more oak, because it's 25-year bourbon. It's a little higher proof, so you're going to get a little more of those tannins too, more of the spice out of the wood. It's actually a bit spicier than you'd expect from a wheated bourbon. It's not exactly like a rye bourbon. It's still got that softness from the wheat. It balances out so well. It doesn't burn you, even though I think it feels a little bit hotter. As you get into the higher proofs in these Pappies, they get a little closer to drinking like their proof point. The 20, even though it was only 90.4, again, I don't want to lead you astray by quoting it wrong, 90.4, it definitely drank hotter than that. You got into the 95.6 of the 23, and it was a bit hotter too. Get up into the 100 proof, it's a little bit hotter than 100. I think in the first video I thought it was closer to a 110, or a 114 or so. The 107 was pretty much online. This is maybe closer. It's almost like they kind of drink about the same proof, even though they are, not the same proof. The lower proof bourbons drink a little hotter. The higher proof bourbons drink a little closer to their proof points. But this is just so much balance. You've got all of those complexities in the wood. You got the allspice. You've got the cherry in there, but with that vanilla and the caramel, and then you get this floralness that I only get in the 25. It's like rose petal. A little bit on the nose, but definitely on the palate. Got like a little bit of like rose water blended in there that kind of sort of pulls those caramels and vanillas together with that spice and the cherry and that floral note, which is really, really interesting. This is complex, and that I don't know if that came from the fact that it is distilled in a different place. Did it come from the extra 2 years? Probably more, I think, the location. All right. Now, compared to my first tasting and the original reviews of these, by the way, these are still all aces. You're not ever going to go wrong with Pappy Van Winkle. And, that review that I saw on the internet, they also did the 12 and the 10. And I've got videos of those as well. The 10 is amazing, and it's the easiest to find. It's the least expensive. It's 107 proof. The 10 is phenomenal. Okay, the 12 is the same proof as the 20. but nowhere near as good as the 10 at 107. The 2 extra years did not help Pappy at all. And then you go to 15, and it didn't help either. The 10, in my opinion, is better than the 12 and the 15. Then I think the 10 falls off, and you've got the 3 older expressions, the 20, the 23, and the unicorn, the 25. I liked the 20 initially because of its Christmas notes with the dried fruits and the that fruit cake and origin shirt. I want to keep that. So, by the way, I'm not getting paid for them. Again, I'm not monetized, not making any money off of this. Maybe someday, hopefully, subscribe. Maybe that will happen. But I just love great computer, by the way. So you get into that Christmas spice, the fruit cake, and the Christmas spices. You move a little more balanced here, less spice, more of the candied butterscotch, white chocolate, cookie type notes with same kind of similar baking spices. Then you get into this 23, which is less sweet, but more oaky because of the age, but that interesting floral notes that come to it. So we're gonna rank them. Okay, 15. Pappy Van Winkle, 15 year, is in last place. Don't worry, I'm gonna still drink all these. It's the weekend. Third place, and it was the one that I originally thought was going to be the best. I still love it, but I do think, the Christmas Christmas only lasts once a year, and when Christmas is over, it's like, gotta wait till next year. I think that 20, even though I was a huge fan in my original review of it, when I compare them and start looking at the complexity of the older aged Pappies, I'm gonna have to put 20 back down in third place. That was surprising. I did not expect that coming into this head-to-head review. I really thought 20 was going to win, but it goes in third place. Now you got the 2 older expressions. And as much as I really want the 25 to be the best because it's so expensive and it's such a unicorn, I think that the floral note in it is very interesting, but in order to get that, you have to have a lot of oak, and you're going to lose some of the sweetness. And so it's interesting, but I kind of think sort of like the 20, Christmas is fun, but it does come to an end. Those floral notes are interesting, but they're not typically bourbon flavors, and so I think it's a wonderful bourbon, but doesn't quite reach number 1. I'm going to call it number 2. So here comes my 25. And in this review, the winner is going to be the 23, because I think the 23 has the most perfect balance. Okay, if you think of the traditional points of bourbon, you're going to have sweetness, and the sweetness can come from different things. It can come from fruit, it can come from candy, and this has got more of the candy flavor, the butterscotch, white chocolate, maybe a tiny bit of cocoa and milk chocolate or dark chocolate, but not more white chocolate, more butterscotch, caramel flavor. That's where that sweetness can come from. A little less fruity. It's still got cherry. It's still got some of the nice Christmas flavors from the 20. You got those dried fruits from that fruit cake coming over here, but instead of being sort of predominant, it's kept in balance with the baking spices, the allspice, the cinnamon that kind of come in as well. And then you've got that that oakiness that comes from the age. So you got those oak tannins. You've got the spicy notes, which typically are not very high in a wheated bourbon anyway, but come through nicely here. And then you've got that sweetness that comes more from a candy type flavor than a fruity flavor, but there's still fruit there. And you get that, you know, the vanillins and the caramels just layer everything together, which, you know, is a typical bourbon flavor. This tastes like a typical bourbon, but it is just absolutely amazingly well balanced. All of those flavors just come together in perfect harmony. Okay, so the Pappy Van Winkle 23 is going to be number 1. Oh wait, there we go. Put it over here. Oh no, I'm off the page, aren't I? Let me move them back. Okay, so here we go. No, I put them in the wrong order. Okay, so here we go. So 15, 20, 25, and 23. This one, sorry folks, probably never going to find it, but anyway, it's amazing. Falls in the middle between the 20 and the 23. This one you can get. You're going to pay a lot for it on the internet. These two you can get as well. You're going to pay less, but still a lot. But you won't go wrong with the 10. It's the cheapest, the easiest to find, and it's really good. And I think the 10 actually falls a little bit in here between the 15 and the 20. All right, so thank you for putting up with me for, looks like my clock on the camera there says about close to 42 minutes. Definitely the longest video we've made, but hopefully doing a flight of Pappy Van Winkles, including the 25-year-old unicorn, is going to hold your attention. You can also go to bourbonrocks.com because I have transcripts of all my videos there. So if you don't feel like watching the video and you just want to read what I have to say about it, you know, I've got a nice blog on the blogs on each of these each of these videos that I do, and I've even got blogs on there that I haven't even made videos for. So check us out on bourbonrocks.com. Thank you very much. I appreciate you hanging in there for all that time.